Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something quite fundamental, aren't we? We're looking at these sources that tackle, well, how we handle those feelings we'd honestly rather not have.
Exactly. The stuff we're digging into today, it challenges that very first instinct, that immediate reaction we have when something feels, uncomfortable or unpleasant.
It does, and it proposes something pretty different, almost upside down from what you'd expect.
hmm So our goal here, our mission, is to sort of pull out the practical steps. How do you actually move through those tough feelings instead of just, shoving them aside?
Okay, right, let's unpack that then, because that tension is there instantly, isn't it? You feel something bad, and your immediate thought is, nope, make it stop now.
Absolutely.
So this whole discussion, it really hinges on the difference between that automatic reaction shift, what we do without thinking, and this other path, this more deliberate choice of what we need to, well, allow.
Precisely. The allowing versus the doing.
So let's start there. That first reaction, that feeling hits anxiety, maybe frustration, could be anything really. What is that automatic sort of default setting the sources talk about?
Well, the sources define it pretty clearly. It's basically driven by this intense urgency. Two things happen. First, you do pretty much everything you can think of to avoid actually feeling that emotion.
Yeah.
You distract, you numb, you rationalize anything.
Okay, avoidance. Got it.
And second, alongside that, you're desperately seeking to feel better immediately, like right now. It's not about long-term solutions. It's about instant relief in that specific moment.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. That sudden urge to check your phone or grab a snack or just zone out when something difficult comes up. It's like a reflex.
It really is.
But connect that for us. Why is that reflex, that sprint towards feeling better now? Why is that often, well, not the best strategy long term? Why doesn't it work?
Fundamentally, because avoidance isn't passive. It actually takes a lot of energy. Think about it. You're actively using your mental resources moment by moment just to keep that feeling suppressed, hold it down.
Ah, right. It's like an ongoing effort.
Exactly. It's this constant mental wrestling match. And because you're spending all that energy just not feeling it, the emotion never gets a chance to sort of run its course naturally. It can't deliver whatever message it might have had.
So it doesn't actually go away?
No, not really. It just gets pushed down maybe into a corner of your mind, but it's still there, still sort of radiating pressure, still demanding energy to keep it contained. It prevents any real processing.
Okay. So that sets up the problem. Avoidance is exhausting and ultimately ineffective.
Which brings us to the really interesting part, the counterintuitive bit.
Right. The alternative path.
Yeah, the core idea, according to this analysis, is that to actually move past the feeling, to dissolve its hold on you, you have to deliberately stop fighting it. You have to permit yourself to actually feel that uncomfortable, unpleasant emotion.
Okay, and that's the hard part, isn't it? Because everything in us screams, danger, avoid. Allowing discomfort feels like weakness, maybe, or like you're just giving in.
It absolutely feels that way initially. But the sources are clear. This isn't about wallowing or getting stuck. It's about granting temporary permission.
Temporary. Okay, so if we manage to do that, to just allow it, even though it feels wrong, what's the payoff? What happens then?
Two key things,
Yeah.
almost immediately. First, you actually gain the ability to release the emotion. Once you stop actively holding it down, it can start to dissipate.
Ah, so the tension eases because you stop fighting.
Precisely. And second, you find you can pass through it. It becomes something you move through rather than something you're stuck under. And critically, the sources emphasize this allowance might only be needed for a few moments.
Just a few moments. That's key, isn't it? It makes it sound less overwhelming. It's not like signing up for endless misery.
Exactly. That duration distinguishes allowing from, say, wallowing or ruminating.
Okay, can we dig into that distinction?
Yeah.
Because that's a really practical concern. How do you allow it for just a few moments without getting completely sucked in? What keeps it brief and focused?
Great question. The key difference lies in focus. Wallowing or ruminating usually involves getting caught up in the story around the feeling, the why me, the judgments, the replaying events.
Right, the narrative.
Exactly. Allowance, in this context, is much simpler. It's about observing the physical sensation of the emotion itself, almost like a scientist. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it a tightness, a heat, a hollowness? You observe it without adding the story.
So less thinking about it, more noticing it.
Precisely. Think of it like controlled, brief exposure. You're not diving into an ocean of despair. You're just agreeing to sit quietly with, say, the tightness in your chest for maybe 60 seconds. You observe it, acknowledge it, and often, like a wave, it crests and then begins to subside on its own.
That shifts the perspective quite a bit, from being overwhelmed by the feeling to being an observer of the sensation, active observation, not passive suffering.
We've got it.
And this allowance, this brief observation, it leads to what feels like the really big reveal in these sources. It's not just about getting rid of the bad feeling, is it? There's something else.
Yes. This is the aha moment. The analysis posits that you're not just enduring the discomfort to get to zero, to neutral. There's actually something positive hidden within the unpleasant emotion itself, like a gift.
A gift inside the bad feeling. That sounds paradoxical.
It does, but it's a powerful idea. The sources argue that precisely from within that difficult, maybe complex emotion, you can uncover genuinely positive feelings, emotions that actually feel good, that are beneficial. The negative feeling is almost like the wrapping paper.
Okay, wrapping paper around a gift. Let's make that concrete. If I'm feeling, say, really intense anxiety, paralyzing anxiety, what kind of gift am I supposedly going to find inside that?
Okay, let's take anxiety or fear. When you stop fighting it, stop avoiding it, and just allow that sensation for a moment, what often emerges, the sources suggest the gift is often clarity and focus.
Clarity from anxiety?
Yeah. Fear is fundamentally a signal, right? It's telling you something you value might be at risk. When you stop running from the feeling of fear, you can access the message. The gift is the clear knowledge of what needs attention, what needs protecting, and that clarity brings focus and energy towards addressing the issue. The positive feeling isn't the anxiety itself, obviously, but the sense of empowerment that comes from knowing where to direct your energy.
Okay, I can see that. The fear points, and the gift is the ability to see where it's pointing and maybe do something about it. What about something like deep sadness or grief?
Sadness is interesting. Our instinct is often to immediately try and cheer ourselves or others up. But if you allow sadness its space, even briefly, the gift that often emerges is self-compassion, genuine empathy, and a sense of connection. Well, sadness often naturally lowers our defenses. It highlights our vulnerability, our shared human experience of loss or pain. So the positive feelings unlocked aren't about being happy, but about a deeper tenderness towards yourself and potentially a more authentic connection with others who understand that feeling. Avoidance keeps you isolated. Allowing it can open a door.
That's profound. Deeper connection, hidden in sadness. Okay, one more. What about anger? Anger feels so destructive sometimes. Is there a gift there too?
Absolutely. And it's a really important one. Avoiding anger often leads to things like passive aggression, resentment, that simmering stuff. But if you allow yourself to feel the energy of anger just briefly, without necessarily acting it out destructively, the gift is often a crystal clear understanding of your boundaries and your core values.
Boundaries and values.
Yes. Anger usually signals that a boundary has been crossed or a value has been violated. When you allow the feeling, you get direct access to that information. This is not okay. This is what I stand for. The positive feeling that comes from that allowance is the empowerment of knowing your ground, the energy to assert a necessary boundary or to ask for a change.
Wow. So in all these cases, the difficult emotion isn't the enemy. It's more like a messenger carrying vital intelligence.
That's a great way to put it. And the discomfort, the unpleasantness is almost like the cost of delivery. If you refuse the delivery because it feels bad, if you avoid the feeling, you never get the message, the gift inside.
And you stay stuck. If you avoid the anger, you don't set the boundary, the violation continues, you get angrier.
Exactly. You break the cycle by allowing the feeling briefly, extracting the information or gift, and then using the clarity, the compassion, the boundary to address the underlying situation. Then the feeling itself often naturally dissolves because its job is done.
Okay. This makes a lot of sense intellectually, but putting it into practice, especially when you're really stressed or triggered, that feels like the challenge. What does this mean for, daily life?
It definitely requires practice, repetition. The sources really emphasize that this isn't a one-time fix. It's about building a new habit.
Like strengthening a muscle.
Precisely. If you commit to choosing this path of allowance, even at brief 60-second observation many times, whenever those difficult feelings arise, you start to rewire your response. You train your brain and body to consistently look for and access those gifts hidden within. You build that new emotional muscle memory.
So the goal is to shift that immediate internal reaction. Instead of get me out of here, it becomes something more like, okay, what information does this feeling have for me? Let me just listen for a moment.
Yes. That's the fundamental shift in perspective. You move from automatically trying to escape the feeling to intentionally, curiously approaching it, knowing there's likely something valuable to be found.
So the whole cycle changes then.
Completely. The old cycle was feel bad, avoid feel stuck and drained.
Right.
The new cycle becomes feel bad, allow, briefly, observe sensation, release pass-through, discover the gift. Clarity, compassion, boundaries, etc. It turns something that felt like a liability into a potential asset.
That really reframes the whole experience of having difficult emotions. It's a much more active and, frankly, more hopeful way to look at it.
It is.
So, wrapping this up, the core insight we've distilled from these sources seems pretty clear. The way to genuinely feel better isn't by trying to detour around the difficult feelings, but by taking a brief, direct path through them to access the wisdom they hold.
Exactly. Allow, observe, release, discover, even just for a few moments. And, it makes you wonder, if this principle applies to strong emotions, if allowing discomfort unlocks positive things like focus or compassion, what about other, maybe smaller, everyday discomforts we automatically avoid?
Like what?
Well, think about things like the initial resistance to starting a workout, or the slight awkwardness of beginning a difficult but necessary conversation, or even just tackling that boring task you keep putting off.
Yeah.
Are we missing out on other kinds of gifts, maybe a sense of accomplishment or clarity or stronger relationships, just because we instinctively recoil from that initial momentary discomfort or resistance?
Yeah.
Something to perhaps notice in your own day.
That's a great thought to leave with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into turning emotional difficulty into, well, something useful. We hope this serves you well.